Assalamualaikum, Dr. Hafiza. Shall we start on time or shall we wait for more participants to join?
I think let's start on time, right?
Up to you, because now we have about 16 participants.
Yeah, it's okay. I think people will keep coming, inshallah.
So we don't want to wait for like 5 more minutes. We just start on time.
Okay, hang on. Let me see.
Your call. Just let me know.
If
you're ready, then I'll start.
We can wait for like 2 minutes lah. Yeah.
Okay, 2 more minutes. Right. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullah, and very good afternoon to all. Welcome to the Department of Information Systems seminar. I'm Nurazlin and I'll be your moderator for today. To gain barakah, let us start our seminar with Kitab Al-Fatihah. Okay, before we begin, allow me to give a brief introduction on our speaker. Dr. Madihah Sheikh Abdul Aziz joined IIUM in 2001. She obtained her Bachelor of IT degree in Multimedia Studies from UKM, a Master of Computer Science majoring in Multimedia Systems from UPM, and a PhD from Swinburne University of Technology, Melbourne, Australia, specializing in human-computer interaction. Currently, she is teaching information visualization for Bachelor of IT students. She is also working on a research project in the information visualization area funded by the Ministry of Higher Education, Malaysia. For today's seminar, Dr. Madihah will be sharing with us the art of data storytelling. The focus is on the basic understanding of the principles of visual design for information visualization and applying the storytelling skills to tell meaningful and impactful stories with data. Very interesting. Okay, without further ado, I'll pass the session to Dr. Madihah.
All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, we hear you.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much to Dr. Nurazlin for the introduction and as the moderator for today's session. Yeah, my name is Madihah from Department of Information Systems, and Dr. Nurazlin is also my department colleague. Okay, so for today, before I start the presentation, I just want to share that I'm not a data expert. Okay, I'm not a data scientist or a data analyst, but my view is more from the side of communication design, okay, in terms of how to communicate data perhaps more effectively in my knowledge, yeah, just to share knowledge with everyone, inshallah. Okay, so without further ado, let me share screen. Please wait for a while. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me just change to full screen mode. All right. So basically, this is about data storytelling, yeah? Okay, hang on. Okay, the art of data storytelling in conjunction with IIUM Itakrim. All right, so for today, I'll be sharing with you on the understanding of basic principles of visual design, okay, which is more towards data storytelling, okay? So these are basically the outlines, yeah? Understanding the context of use and target audience, choosing the right visuals, yeah? Draw attention wherever appropriate, think like designers, okay? Tell a story, and also some tools, yeah, to be shared with you after this. So before we start, yeah, I just want to walk you through to some examples of data. Maybe some of you are new to this, okay? So this is more to basic understanding, yeah? So examples of data, for example, like when you want to stay in a hotel, yeah, perhaps you might be collecting some data with regards to the location of the hotel, the price, facilities, and amenities, yeah? So that is one example. Next is about fitness tracker app, yeah? So when we use that application or mobile app, yeah, we are basically collecting our own data, yeah, about calorie count, food intake, weight loss, inches loss, yeah, weekly exercise routines, and many more. It depends on the what sort of data that is being collected by the mobile app. Okay, news sites. So this one is basically whatever news that okay, we want to communicate the news to the public, for example. Okay, I still remember this one of my students back in, I think 2 years back, okay, when he was doing his practical training, yeah. So after he completed his practical training, he came back to see me and just sharing with me his experience while doing the internship. And he said one of the tasks given by his manager, this was in one big IT company, so I'm not going to mention the name, but anyway, the boss was asking him to, just very quickly asking him, okay, I want to know what is happening in Japan. Okay, so he was like kind of freaking out, and then he had to search some data, go here and there, and then search from the internet. Okay, so he had to provide this news about 3 important things that are happening in Japan. So he had to not only to gather the data, analyze it, and of course to visualize it in a way that is meaningful, yeah, for especially to the managers in his company. So it was quite overwhelming task for him because he had to do it alone, and he said he did apply some of the principles that he learned in my class. So it was quite interesting, and I was very proud of him. Yeah, he did the task very well, alhamdulillah. So that's basically one more example, yeah, news sites. All right, next is about research reports. Yeah, I believe many of us are doing a research. Yeah, some of the reports we want to create graphs. Yeah, project reports, data analysis, as well as research findings. Okay, and many other examples in the area of research reports. Social media. So as we all know, yeah, there are so many different applications, yeah, in social media platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as you can see in the picture next to you there. Your engagement history, frequent users, yeah, how many frequent users have visited your account, for example, yeah, most visited sites or pages, most popular posts, the number of likes, the number of followers. It can be anything, yeah, related to social media. In the context of Twitter, yeah, how many tweets, yeah, or maybe the famous tweets, the trending tweets, yeah, happening in the world of Twitter. Okay, so that is another example of data. So basically, data is everywhere. Okay, it's around us, whether we notice about it or not. Yeah. For example, like ourselves, even when we want to buy like a mobile phone, yeah, of course, we do some data collection, right? You will be like searching for information about mobile phone in terms of brands, in terms of models, in terms of features. What is it, what is the difference between them? Which one is better for you? Of course, you try to relate to yourself. What is it that you need the most, okay, based on the data that you have collected. So in a way, you are basically collecting data and analyzing the data, okay? So understanding the context of use and who the users are, or in this context, we call them target audience, is very important. So in whatever data analysis and visualization that we do, we have to always think about what is it for, okay? We are targeting for whom, okay? Is it for your manager? Okay, if you are working and your boss asks you to do it, maybe your head of department, okay, maybe your supervisors, or maybe to your lecturers, yeah, or maybe you just want to share it to the public, yeah. So it really depends on what context of use and who would be your users.
Excuse me, Dr. Madihah.
Yes.
Your slide is still on the first page.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay, let me see. Let me try again. Oh, so you cannot see the slide just now from the beginning?
We can only see the first page of the slide.
Okay, let me try again. How about now?
Yep. Now we're seeing that all these examples are something that's on the right page.
Oh, okay. So let me just go through quickly from the beginning, just the pictures, yeah? Okay, so this one is about, so you didn't see this slide before just now,
Nope.
right? Okay, so this one about staying in a hotel, yeah? And then fitness tracker app, news sites, yeah? Communicating data in the form of news, and then communicating data in the form of research reports, yeah? And then social media platforms, yeah? And then, yeah, now we are here understanding the context of use and also who will be the users here. Who are the users or the target audience in your visualization and data storytelling. So all of these examples are communicating in the language of data. Okay, so it's everywhere. So we cannot really deny the fact that we have to at least know a little bit about it. So many entities, companies, organizations, or even individuals ourselves are relying on data. So default graphs may no longer have an impact. Yeah, there is a need to create meaningful charts that resonate with an audience. Okay, so this is a definition, yeah, by Bob Spence. Okay, he refers visualize or visualization as to form a mental model or mental mood or mental image of something, making data easier to understand using direct sensory experience. So in a way, we as a human being, we have different experience, perception, understanding. It depends on what we went through, in our life. So we will, in a way, forming our own mental model in our mind. So whatever we see in front of our mind, in front of our eyes, yeah, we will always relate to the mental model in our brain. Okay, before I go further, I just want to share here, there are many forms of visualization and data storytelling. So it's not just limited to a dashboard, yeah? It also can be in the form of an infographic poster, okay, for a static visualization. And then dashboard, it can be static or dynamic, whereby users can also walk through, yeah, they can navigate through, they can filter the visualization that is available on the dashboard. And then it can be in the form of report, yeah. This is an example of report, okay, maybe Word document, okay. So again, it involves visualization and storytelling in the report and also in the presentation. Okay, so it depends on the context of use, as I have mentioned earlier on, okay, what is it for, okay, and also to whom that we are designing for, all right. So what is data storytelling? It comprises of three main elements here. Of course, it must have data, yeah, and then visuals, and in this case, narratives. In the past, for data visualization alone, maybe it's just a combination between data and visuals, or in other words, a design. But now, data storytelling is like a new language here after data visualization. So we have this new term, we call it narratives, okay? So what is narratives? Yeah, we look at this framework, yeah? by Brandeis in 2020. So this is effective data storytelling can help your insights drive change. So as you can see, these three diagrams, okay, the first one explain, help your audience interpret and understand your insights, okay? So as you can see, it's a combination between narrative and data. Enlighten, use data visualizations to reveal insights hidden in the data, okay, visuals and data. And then engage, yeah, combine narrative with visuals to connect with your audience. So here we have these three combinations, and then these three will drive change, okay? So it will make our visualization more insightful to the users. So more insightful here also includes efficiency, okay? In other words, that when the user or the viewers or the target audience look at your visualization, they can quickly grasp the information that is being presented. You don't have to spend like minutes or hours in order to figure out what is being presented, all right? So this is very much related to our brain, yeah? The brain loves a difference, yeah? Why do we say this, okay? So let's look at examples, yeah? When we look at these two figures, all right, the brain is much better at quickly detecting shape variations compared to shape, okay? If you look at this picture on the left, of course, you'll be like struggling to find the pattern, right? In identifying pattern. But when you look at on the right here, okay, automatically our eye movement will look at number 6, okay? Now let's look at another example. All right, here on the left, this is a geographical map, yeah? We have type 1 and type 2. So the picture here, of course, is different, but we can't really see the difference, okay, because of the shape, yeah? But when we look at the second graph here, all right, because of the color that is being used, of course, it is a very different, yeah? It's easy for the brain to detect the two different type 1 and type 2. So this is actually very much related to Gestalt principles of thoughts and pattern recognition. So Gestalt means pattern, is a German word, okay? So as you can see here, it's either we go by size, all right? You can adjust the size in order to show that this is the most outstanding element in your graph, or you can also use orientation, different orientation to show, or you can also play around with the color and shade. All right, so to save time, the brain groups similar objects and separates them from those that look different. Of course, in terms of Gestalt principles, there are many principles. I'm not going to discuss about that today, but I just give you some brief examples here. Okay, what is Gestalt is all about, yeah? So this pre-attentive detection feature, the instant sorting, yeah, of differences and similarities, is one of the most powerful weapons in the designer's arsenal. Okay, so we will see how it is being used in visualizations and storytelling, yeah? So what is this, yeah? This is a color wheel, yeah? What meaning does color bring to the presentation? Okay, maybe to some people, color may not be important, right? But in data storytelling, we do need color. Okay, so I will show you some examples after this. So these are a color palette, set of color palettes that can be used, all right? They are available, but then of course, it brings some kind of mood or emotion, okay, according to the selection of colors. Here we have earth tones, we have unnatural colors, we have cool colors, warm colors, and of course, this one is increasing in terms of color intensity. Okay, so it depends what type of color palette that we want to choose for our visualization and storytelling. Now let's relate color into data visualization. Okay, we have 5 different types. Okay, this is the basic ones, yeah? Sequential, diverging, categorical, highlight, and alert. So let's look at the first one, sequential. Color is ordered from low to high. Okay, so in this context, probably low here means the smaller number in terms of values, and high here means the bigger number in terms of values. That is sequential, all right? And you can see how the color changes from lighter to darker. Okay, for diverging, it must have 2 sequential colors with a neutral midpoint here in the middle. Okay, so diverging mostly, this one is on the left is the most negative, and this one is the most positive. For example, like loss. Yeah, so we will see some examples after this. Yeah, so this is diverging. Categorical, contrasting colors for individual comparison. So this is if you have multiple categories. Okay, it's all right. So for multiple categories, yeah, perhaps we could choose different color. Okay, so we can choose different colors for each category. Yeah, and then we have here highlight. And then we have here highlight. And if you note here, we have one color blue and the other color here red. Okay, so highlight in this context, Dr. Aziza, yeah? Sorry, Dr. Aziza, perhaps you could mute. Okay, I hope Dr. Aziza can hear me. All right. Okay, so as you can see here, we have highlight and alert. Yeah. So one might wonder, yeah, why alert is red and highlight is blue. Okay, this is example. It can be other color as well, but here used only to highlight something. Okay, but when it comes to alert, it's more like we want to alarm people about something that is, you know, in danger, you know, something like that. Or we talk about currently COVID-19 cases is, you know, increasing with a large number. So of course, red color is used, but when it comes to the number of people who have recovered from COVID, then most of the time green color is being used. So there is a reason, yeah, why people use red, and the other context people use green. Okay. So this is an example just now, yeah, about the different color choice, yeah, for data visualization. So sequential color is being used in this geographical map, all right, unemployment rate by state. Okay, so as you can see here, the darkest color would be the higher number of unemployment, all right, and for the other, the lightest one would be the lowest number. Okay, and for the map, usually you can either use color or you can also use symbols, okay, in order to visualize information. And when it comes to symbols, you can play around with the size of the symbols. Yeah, perhaps the bigger the size of the symbol, that shows that the larger number of the value in that particular manner. Diverging color, yeah, as mentioned earlier on, it has a neutral midpoint in the middle. So the most left is basically the most negative value, and the most right is usually the most positive value. And you can see how the color are being illustrated or presented in this order. Yeah. And then categorical color. So I just want to draw your attention here that it is extremely important to select color appropriately. Don't pick striking colors that can be a pain in the eyes. Okay, it's very unpleasant aesthetically. Yeah, so usually people use neutral color. Okay, even though you have several categories. And I would like to highlight here, you can see we have category and also subcategories. Okay, and note that for category here, okay, though they have subcategories, furnishings, chairs, tables, and so on, okay, but the color here, still the same color. But what you can improve further from this graph is perhaps you can play around with the tones. Okay, maybe the the largest value here, perhaps you can have, okay, so perhaps this bar at the top here can be the darkest color. Okay, so still using one color, but you can play around with shade. Okay, different shade. Another style, sorry, not another style, basically another way lah, yeah, for you to improve the visualization of this graph, yeah, like what you see at the moment, it has been sorted, yeah, according to ascending or descending order. Yeah, some visualization is not being sorted, okay, accordingly. So you can do that in order to help user to see quickly which one is the highest value in your visualization. All right. Highlight color. Okay, so as you can see, this is a slope graph. All right, so I will talk more about this later. Okay, but I just want to show you how highlight color is being used in this graph. Okay, so blue color is highlighted, only one color highlighted here, and the rest has been in muted gray. Okay, so why muted gray? We'll talk about this later. And then here, alerting color. So immediately our eyes will look at these two dots, right? Because this is yellow dot and this is red dot. Remember about alerting people? Okay, so here meaning that this is the highest number. Yeah, 19 days last inspection, and this is second higher. Of course, the color is yellow. So that's why you can play around with color here. All right, so this one 13 days slightly lower than the first one. All right, hence the color is yellow. All right, next is choosing an effective, appropriate visual. Okay. All right, so of course there are so many different visual styles or different charts or different graphs that we can use. Okay, in fact, if you browse through on the internet, there are more than hundreds of graphs. Okay, but I'm going to talk about only a few that are popular. Okay, of course you can always use other types. Okay, we have here simple text. Okay, which one is simple text? Of course, this one, yeah, 84%. So this is in terms of percentage. Perhaps it can be in other descriptive statistics, like for example, here percentage, it can be frequency or count, yeah. And then here we have scatter plot, yeah, if you want to measure, if you have two different measures, yeah, you want to show relationship between two different measures. And then we have here table, all right, and line, scatter plot here and the line chart. Okay. Yeah, before that, so line chart usually is used for to show time relationship, time series relationship. Okay, next we have heat map and slope graph. So here on the left, it looks like a table, right? Looks like a table, but this is a heat map, all right, which is a refined table, okay, with color elements applied on it. Okay, so as you can see, from just a normal table, which people usually assume table is a raw data, unprocessed data. Okay, but in this particular context, when we look at this table, we can immediately see, our eyes will immediately look at the larger one, which is the darkest color. Okay, so that's how heat map can help a user to view the information very quickly. Okay, and then we have here on the right is a slope graph. Yeah. And then bar graph, of course, we have several types of bar graphs, vertical, horizontal, stacked bar graphs, yeah. And for your information, bar graph is so far the best graph to show comparisons, okay. Besides, I know a lot of people like to use pie chart or donut chart, okay, which is bring me to the next slide. Okay, for your information, pie chart and donut chart are considered the least accurate charts, yeah, in terms of accuracy. So it's not really recommended in the world of communication design. Okay, from the designer's perspectives, it is always good for you to resort to bar graph rather than using pie chart, especially if you have a lot of categories. Okay, anyway, if you only have two categories like female and male, maybe you don't need a pie chart. Okay, so I will show you some examples again after this. Yeah. So draw attention where you feel is appropriate. Think about the user's eye movement. So this concept or principle is actually very much similar, okay, to the concept of interaction design. Yeah, in the HCI, yeah, human-computer interaction, when we are designing a software tool or website, mobile application, or any other IT products, we always look at how the user would be navigating the application or the system. Okay, so we will think about, like for example, I think in the HCI world, we have a lot of usability testing to look at the user movement. Okay, sorry, the user's eyes movements. Yeah, well, where do they look first whenever they enter the screen? So taking the similar concept in this communication design, okay, when they look at the graph or they look at your visualization, what is it that you want user to focus first? What is it that is the most important for them to look at? Okay, so let's look at next here. All right, here is an example, yeah, of a bar graph if you can see here, we have some narrative and descriptive information added on the bar graph. What is it about? Children with a traditional stay-at-home mother. A percentage of children with a married stay-at-home mother with a working husband. Okay, in 1970, 41, 2012, 20. Okay, so note, based on children younger than 18, their mothers are categorized based on employment status in 1970 and 2012. Okay. So in this context, you could just write a simple sentence, yeah, rather than coming up with this graph, bar graph, okay, with only two categories. Perhaps you can just rewrite, just write a sentence, yeah, 20% of children had a stay-at-home mom in 2012 compared to 41% in 1970. But how do we write that? Okay, so perhaps we can do something like this. Okay, so 20%, so that will directly attract users' eyes toward that 20%, and people will be reading the rest of the text, which is so much simpler, shorter, and inshallah more meaningful to the user. Okay. And also note, yeah, how the color is being used or applied in this context. Blue on the 20% and also referring to the traditional stay-at-home mom, and the rest has been muted gray. Okay, so if you notice that, it's basically pushing back or push to the background the rest of the elements of the visualization. That's why it has been changed to muted gray. Okay, and only the most outstanding information or finding that is being highlighted in this context. Okay. So this is another example of different graph, yes, square area graph. Perhaps if you want to show some interview breakdown, okay, in terms of number of participants, yeah. So the overall here is 100 participants, and then it has been scaled down to 25, and then only 9 here is active. So regardless of the data, all right. So but when we look at this particular graph, we know that only 9 participants here that is active, based on only the graph, okay, not even looking at the description. All right. Okay, so again, I would like to highlight about this table, yeah, how table can be refined further by redesigning it, or we can transform it into a heat map. All right. So before that, I also would like to highlight about having borders on the table. If you have a table, perhaps you can think about having slightly minimal borders rather than putting some heavy color on the border of the table. Okay. Okay, and this is example. Okay, I'm sure this is very typical table that you have seen before. All right, and look at how it is being transformed into a heat map. So it will be so much easier for people to understand in terms of the highest number or the lowest number. Okay, the least number, you know, something like that. So again, it's about table and heat map, how heat map can really help people to understand better. So think like a designer. Actually, from the beginning just now, I have already talked about how visual design can help you to be a designer, okay? So everyone can be a designer, okay, as long as you apply the basic concepts of visual design into your visualization and storytelling in this context, lah, okay? So usually designer will try their best, yeah, to make it legible, okay? In other words, highlight the important things only, okay? For example, they might be using italics, highlight, or underline, bold. That is in the form of text or font, yeah, typography. All right. Even you might be thinking about adding on serif and sans serif. Okay. So serif is the one with tail, yeah, like for example, Times New Roman, okay, and then sans serif without tails, yeah. So you can always play around with different type of font styles when you are using any software, okay. And then it's if you are designing a dashboard, for example, you can have a combination between serif and sans serif when it comes to fonts, okay, the font style that you want to pick, and then keep it clean. Yes. We need white space in the visualization, yeah. So maximize white space, all right. And they use straightforward language. Yeah, usually keep it simple, not just in terms of design, but also in terms of language. If possible, try to use a layman language. Yeah, in this context, if the visualization involves something that some complex words, perhaps think about how you can add on some definition. But again, it has to be brief. Okay, because at the end of the day, people want it very quickly. You don't have to spend time in order to understand the visualization. All right. And then remove unnecessary complexity or avoid clutter. So what is it about? Okay, so this is some examples here. On the left, 3D elements, all right, or graphics, yeah. So if 3D is not necessary, okay, in the visualization, then it would be advisable for you to remove, okay, because it will just be a distraction to the eyes, all right. Not only that, the grid lines, yeah, behind the graph, also unnecessary element. Okay, so this all these design principles were introduced by Edward Tufte. Okay, Edward Tufte, T-U-F-T-E. So he's one of the famous communication design prominent figure. Okay, who have been talking about having to maximize the data ink ratio, meaning that avoid or remove unnecessary elements on the graph. Okay, so in this context, 3D elements or any additional graphics or grid lines in this case, or even borders, okay, you can remove borders because it's totally unnecessary when it comes to visualization and storytelling. Okay, so tell a story. So I still have a few more slides to share when it comes to the examples of graphs in this context. Okay, so employee feedback over time. So this is the feedback survey, okay, that has been analyzed and presented in this a slope graph here. So again, if you notice, in this particular example, all are in muted gray, okay, but then it can be refined further because you want to direct the eye to focus on one point here, which is career development. So the color is, in this case, orange, okay, so highlighting only that, and the rest can be pushed to the background. All right, so this is because why it is being designed in this manner, because our brain detects the difference, yeah. Automatically, when we see things, we will automatically detect foreground and background. Yeah, we separate things, yeah, from the background. So that's how using the same concept in design. Okay, that's how designers have been pushing the unnecessary elements in this particular context, okay, into muted gray, for example, and then highlight the most important one in different color so that the user's eyes will always look at that particular point. Okay, so this is another example. I want to draw your attention here, all right? So look the difference, yeah, before and after. Okay, so from this graph, perhaps even the data point can be removed. Yeah, data points for the two lines. So this is a line chart, okay, with two series here. And then this point here also, we can remove the decimal points because it's again unnecessary. Yeah, remove borders. Yeah, in this case, a border has been removed. Remove grid lines. Okay, and even the months here can be refined further by putting just the short form for each month, because this is understandable for everyone. So I like to relate this to mental model just now. Okay, so usually whatever we design, it always have to, usually it will relate to whatever we have in the mind, okay, whatever we understood based on our own understanding, experience, and reading. So when it comes to visualization, okay, it's the job of a designer, okay, to think about how they can give the best visualization that will not let the viewer or audience to guess. We don't want the audience to keep guessing what does it mean. Okay, we want them to be able to grasp immediately what is the information that is being presented. So in this context, it's very quickly, all right, you can see that even the legend has been changed, has been transformed from this manner. This is the old star, right? And this, they can just put it here, referring to the blue line received, and then the red line for the processed. Okay, so this is for the line chart. Okay, of course you can apply the same concepts in other different type of charts. In fact, for line chart we also have area charts. Yeah, so again, like I have mentioned just now, you can just remove unnecessary elements on the graph. Just focus on the main thing that you want to present. But what happens if we have too many things to present? Perhaps you can break them down into several graphs. Just focus one thing at a time. Perhaps it will help the user or audience to focus on one thing at a time. Okay, we don't want to increase their cognitive load. Okay, talking about cognitive load, we don't want people to, we don't want to force people to process too many information at the same time. Okay. All right, again, this is a slope graph, but with some narrative added on, okay? But I just want to highlight here, when it comes to data storytelling, it doesn't mean that we have to add narratives, okay? Although narrative is there in the framework just now that I have shown to you, but then narrative can be interpreted in, in the using color or different sizes or different orientation, slightly different compared to the rest of the element on the graph, so that people can immediately see this is the information that they want to, that the designer want them to understand, okay, or to know. All right, so in this particular context, it's a combination between the graph, the color, or the visual design, as well as the narrative. Okay, so as you can see, this graph is actually based on survey of 100 students conducted before and after pilot program. Yes, so 100% response rate on both surveys. Okay, so how do you feel about the science program? So the before program, the majority of children felt just okay about science subject. Okay, however, after the program, more children were kind of interested and excited about science. So in the original graph, it was just a pie chart. Okay, but the designer has improved into this refined graph or modified graph into, as you can see, even the blue color is of course associated with after program, and then the yellow color is automatically associated with the before program. And look at how it is being highlighted here according to color, and the rest has been in muted gray. Okay, so this is basically the standard lah when it comes to communication design, when it comes to data visualization and storytelling. Designers have used a lot of muted gray in order to push backwards or to the background the rest of the elements that is less important. Okay. Okay, so if you look at this, yeah, there are so many different styles. You can read when everything is emphasized, nothing is emphasized. Okay, so this is actually design lesson. Okay, which is a very famous design lesson, not from me, yeah, from you can actually browse through on the internet. There are a lot of designers talking about this. Yeah, it's important for us to identify. Yeah? So in other words, the communication designer perhaps need to work hand in hand with the data scientists or data analysts. Okay, to think about which one is the best for them to highlight the most or to emphasize, rather than just providing a summary of data or the findings, and the rest you leave it to the viewer to decide or to to figure out themselves. So again, like I have mentioned earlier on, that people have different mental models. Okay, they might interpret them differently. Okay, so this can be misleading. Okay, so when it comes to graph, okay, if we relate to this statement here, okay, again, so if the graph highlighting everything, then it's actually highlighting nothing. Okay. All right. Last but not least, I just want to share some of the tools for visualization, and perhaps some storytelling can be added on as well. Okay, you can either use Tableau. Okay, this is the one that I am using currently in my class for teaching, and then you can also use Microsoft Power BI. All right, or Google Data Studio. Okay, and the Adobe Illustrator, I highlighted that one because if you want to refine further the graph, because when it comes to infographic poster, perhaps the design of the graph can be upgraded, okay, can be redesigned in a more aesthetically pleasing manner. Okay, for example, if the data is about cigarettes, so rather than using bar graph, normal bar graph with the bar or box elements, perhaps the visualization can be redesigned, okay, using the design element, or in this case, the design motif based on cigarettes. So how to do that? Of course, it's not easy to do that in Tableau because that one is more on data visualization tools, but Adobe Illustrator is probably, yeah, the best tool, okay, for you to do graphic editing. Okay, so all these wonderful graphs, very fancy graphs can be redesigned using Adobe Illustrator to produce a more wonderful design infographic poster. And then one more thing, users can also use Canva. Yeah, Canva is one of the, I think, very famous cloud tool now. Yeah, people can just sign up. Okay, you can have your own account, but then I think in terms of freedom for you to redesign the graph, it can be very limited compared to, of course, Illustrator is a professional version, is a professional software tool, yeah, for graphic editing, drawing. Yeah. Okay, so I think I have pretty much covered everything. Yeah, I think that's all from me. I'll pass it over to Dr. Nurazlin.
All right, thank you, Dr. Madihah, for such an interesting talk. We have about 15 minutes left for Q&A session. I'll now open the floor to questions.
Can I ask a question, Professor here?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Prof.
Maybe it's a silly question, but can we combine two graphs together?
Combining two graphs together.
Yeah, two graphs are two different illustrations together to give it a better meaning. Say, for example, if you have a pie chart and you have histogram, can we combine them together in one figure?
You mean in the visualization?
Yes.
Or on top of the same graph?
Maybe in visualization, or maybe on top of each other somehow, so that we can see it in one go.
If it's on top of each, in the same graph, basically it's more like dual axis chart, perhaps combining bar chart and line chart. So it depends on the data lah. Okay, what sort of data that we want to visualize. Yes, you can do that if it's a combination between two charts in one graph. But I think another question Prof asked just now is about a combination of two graphs maybe in one screen. Is that what you meant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think that one is more like a dashboard. Okay, dashboard design. So like I have mentioned earlier, dashboard is more like a combination of more than one graph, okay, presented in one screen, or it can be multiple screens for a dashboard. Okay, and then yes, you can have different graphs presented in one screen or multiple screens for the dashboard. Okay, and then it's when it comes to dashboard, okay, for the dynamic dashboard, okay, it allows the viewer to also filter. For example, like let's say you have a bar graph in that dashboard and you want to filter according to countries. Okay, maybe a product lah, yeah, product sales in the US, for example, and then you want to see only in the state of Minnesota. So you can just click in that particular state, so you can view. So yes, the answer is you can combine. Okay, if it's in the form of dashboard.
Maybe one more question I ask is, how is the placement and value plays the role in visualization?
Okay, again, Prof, it depends on the platform and in what form that you are working on. Is it for just report like Word document, or is it in the dashboard, or is it infographic poster? Okay, so when it comes to the view, all right, usually for dashboard, it's always advisable for the designer or the data analyst to start off with the overview of the whole data first, like a summary of the whole data, but not too big, just one on the most left top. Sorry, at the top left. Okay, and the rest of the graph following like a subcategory, not subcategories, it's like discussing or presenting a different set of data. But usually from one graph to the other graph, perhaps should have some continuity. Maybe it can be broken down into several screens of dashboard. Okay, one graph probably talking about maybe sales, and then the other graph, in the other screen talking about marketing. So it depends on the data that you are working on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay.
Okay, that's a question from Brother Jamal. Brother Jamal, would you like to ask the question directly? Or you want me to read it from the chat box?
Yeah, just read from the chat, from the chat, yeah.
So the question is there a specific reason why storytelling using data is an art, not a science?
I think the reason is quite obvious. Because it's design, right? Design is of course from the, I think from the art stream. But I'm not really a design expert, okay? Maybe if we have any design experts here, they have probably opposite view. So yeah, but to me, it's like a combination lah. So to me here, the way I see it is more like bridging between data science and also communication, data communication. Okay, so in order to communicate between the two, so of course we have a lot of complex data, especially in medical world, we talk about a lot of complex data, right? But in order to visualize all this data, I think we need some skills in design in order to re-visualize it, to make it more beautiful and at the same time meaningful. So I'm not saying something beautiful is better, but if we combine the two, it will be a lot more impactful. And I like to also share, there's this one book which is very interesting. We call it knowledge is beautiful. Yeah, before this, the earlier edition was information is beautiful. If you're interested, perhaps you can look, you can find out about this book. It's really interesting. Inside the book, it's all about visuals, nothing, no textual information, all visuals, but they give you hundreds of ways how to visualize complex data. Very interesting book. Knowledge is beautiful. Thank you, Brother Jamal.
Question.
Okay.
Madihah. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
It's a very simple question, don't worry. I am very impressed with your presentation. Very nice. You speak very impeccable English. Very good to hear. Anyway, my question is there any simple booklet somewhere that can guide us to, you know, when we are presenting, whether it is a pie chart or bar graph or whatever, the way we should refine our presentation so that it becomes nicer, like what you said, it quickly catches the attention of the people that we want to present the story or whatever. Is there any booklet or any simple guideline like that that exists, which we can quickly read and learn from? Otherwise, we have to hear your talk every now and then.
Well, honestly, Prof, even when I was preparing for my class, I took this class, I think 3 years back. So it has been 6 semesters already that I have been teaching this course. I had to, you know, refer to so many different books. There is, to easily answer your question, no, there is no very handy brochure that we can just, you know, refer to when it comes to you know, effective presentation. Of course, we have to refer to a few several references. Yeah, but it gives me an idea. Maybe I can, you know, design something like that. Inshallah.
You remain the best source as of now online.
Inshallah.
Madihah.
Yes, Dr. Mazna.
I straight away think that you must write it now, the book.
Yeah.
It's very handy and it's very useful. I think the tips you have given.
May Allah give me strength, inshallah. It's a good idea. Thank you so much, Prof. Nobi, and thank you also, Dr. Mazna.
Thank you. Very, very exciting, very interesting topic. I never knew that it is as interesting as this. Just so happened that I had a cancelled meeting, so I joined you up.
MashaAllah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Dr. Madihah?
Yes.
Is there like different school of thoughts about how people perceive, like, you know, some people say, maybe again, psychologists would like to debunk this, like they say that some people are very visual person, some people are, you know, so would that be like different because you are a visual person or somebody like to read words? Does that make a difference? Meaning what kind of person you are when you see a visualization?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mazna. I think it's a very interesting question. It's actually about user preferences, right? Yeah, some people prefer visual, some people prefers textual or even numerical data. But it really depends on, I mean, usually when we design things, for example, when it comes to interaction design is more on developing software, developing or designing websites, But when we design things, we don't just rely on one person to give us the feedback. So usually we will try to do the testing with a group of users, right? The potential users of our tools. So that with the hope that we can generalize the results, okay? So whatever design that we do, so this applies in other concept of interaction design, graphic design, industrial design, or even communication design in this particular context. Usually it's always advisable to test your visualization or your sketches with your potential viewer. It's always good. I always remind my student, when you have some ideas, you start with sketching first, sketch and talk to maybe your boss, your manager, okay? See what they think about it, all right? So, and talk to people, because usually as a designer or a programmer, okay, in a different context, the way we think may be different, compared to other people, especially the users. And we have to remember we are designing for human beings. Of course, human beings have different understanding, different perception, different expectation. But when we run some user testing, okay, even in this context, when we do some sketches in terms of graphs or other type of visualization, it's always good to talk to people and show and see what they think about it, so that you get more feedback in order to improve it further. Okay, I hope I answered your question. But if we want to say, some people, they like text, some people, they like visual. Yes, I cannot deny that fact, because, different people, different user preferences. But when it comes to the output of our design, it has to always based on, feedback from the users themselves, okay, not from us alone, okay? I can just go and say, no, this is the best design. No, we cannot do that. So it has to be based on the feedback from our potential viewer or audience or users. Okay.
There's a question from YouTube. Can you share references about the color selection?
Okay, I don't have it at the moment. Color selection, because usually when it comes to color, I have referred to several books, several references. So I don't have one particular reference at the moment. So I'm so sorry, I cannot, I can't think of one book at the moment. I'm so sorry about that.
By the way, the question was actually from Dr. Azrina from UPM, I think. Yeah. Dr.
Azrina. Oh, Dr. Azrina. Okay, I'll get back to you later.
Yeah.
From UPM, right? Thanks for joining us.
Okay, is there any other question from the floor? We have about 3 more minutes. Okay, another question from Brother Jamal. Does storytelling design has different school of thought and trend? Example, minimalist versus maximalist?
I cannot hear you clearly. What was the question again? Minimalist versus maximalist. Okay, based on my own experience, maybe other designers or maybe other experts in HCI, they may have different view. But to me, because I was teaching human-computer interaction before, and then I also teach information visualization. And then for your information visualization is actually one branch under HCI. HCI is big, it's like an umbrella, and then InfoVis is under this HCI, and then I noticed that they are pretty much the same. Okay, however, the way we apply it on a different platform, different product will be slightly different. But like I said just now, always go back to the user. Okay, whatever we design, always go back to the user, because at the end of the day, we are designing for them. We are not designing for ourselves.
Okay, there's another question. Misleading data visualizations might be intentional if the creator has an agenda to promote. What is your advice or thought to identify possible intentional misleading data visualization?
Okay, very interesting questions. Yeah, I actually forgot to mention in my presentation, yeah, in visualization, whatever things that you report, in what platform you report, regardless, must always have reference. Okay, you have to have a reference that is valid and recent. Okay, so yeah, I always remind my students, so that's how you know the data that is being presented is from coming from the trusted source. Even so, if there is no reference, definitely you know that this is something that you cannot trust. Okay, you can question the credibility of this information, and so when the reference is there, you can always double check. Okay, so that's my opinion.
Okay, any other question? No? Can I ask like one final question?
Oh, okay.
So in terms of the text narrative, because like you said just now, it's not necessary to have text narrative, right? But if you were to have one, so is there any specific guidelines in writing the text? For example, in terms of number of words that you have to use, how you write it. I don't think that you have to follow grammar correctly for that, right? Yeah, but
yeah, actually, there is, but I can't really share with you at the moment, but I can get back to you later. Actually, that is part of my research. Okay, we are currently working on the different criteria that is need to be taken into consideration when it comes to data storytelling, and that involve text, narration, which is on the font. We look at the font size, we look at the layout, okay, whether it's horizontal or vertical, and then we look at the storyboard, storyline. So yeah, it's actually a research in progress. So if you want to ask the exact reference, so far, no, we don't. I don't have that information at the moment.
That can be another topic of your presentation.
Inshallah.
Okay, sorry, 3:31. If there's no other question, I think there's another question because already reached the end of the session. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Madihah, for a very, very interesting talk. It's truly, really interesting.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Once again, thank you for joining us today. And let us end this seminar with Tasbih Kifara and Suratul Ars. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah.
Thank you, Prof.
Well done, well done.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah.
Mashallah.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mazna.
Dr. Madihah, very interesting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Madihah. Thank you, Dr. Azli.
Thank you.